Like, before I knew it, the bank was like surrounded with cops.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Listen, I have a confession to make. You guys, I have been spending way too much time on TikTok. In fact, I've been spending so much time on TikTok that I've neglected my channel. I have other projects in the works. I have other things that I'm doing. I have my business that brings in the money that I have to, hustle and, get these bills paid. Well, YouTube provides another way of earning money, a little something, something. And I just kind of got out of the habit of working my YouTube channel. So if you are subscribed to me, a lot of you know that I was doing transcripts of the Nesto text messages. Well, something peculiar happened, at least in my opinion. And that thing was Sonia Nesto stopped talking. Now, if you are new to my channel completely, you don't know what I'm talking about, feel forward to just click on the video and head to the next chapter. I will have this broken down into chapters so you can skip all of this. But for those of you guys who rock with me and is familiar with my work and is here because of that, I just kind of want to let you know what happened and what's going on and possibly what this channel is going to look like moving forward. But anyway, they stopped talking. They stopped talking on the phone and even texting. And the text messages, started to get very boring and monotonous. There's only so many good morning, handsome man, good morning, my love, I love yous that I was willing to spend hours transcribing because, to be quite honest, it takes a long time. And I wanted to give you guys the meat and potatoes, and the reason the slowing down, we all know why. His attorneys told him to hush. But for me as a content creator, I just kind of got bored with the whole thing. It was not interesting to me. And I really want to apologize because I know for some of you, it was very interesting. Now, more recently, things have picked up because they only have so many ways of talking and communicating. And now that his trial, it looks like he's not going back to court, I don't believe, until what? Is it October? Okay, somebody correct me. But anyway, things have been kind of moving slow. And you can only beat so many horses, okay? And I would like to give a shout out to all the content creators that's been holding it down. And you guys have been reviewing a lot of the content that's being said. I may possibly go ahead and do those transcripts, the most recent ones from earlier this year, because they start to talk a little bit more. So if that is something that you're interested in, please be looking out for those. But moving forward, like I said, I have been addicted to TikTok, and let me tell you, the story times are awesome. These people are over here on TikTok telling all their business, and they're telling all their true crime business. So I have been collecting stories, and I just want to share with you some of the things that I have collected. So today's video is spotlighting, I believe her name is Yamie Michelin, and it's Jamie with the Y, so I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. But her TikTok name is A Basic Mom, and she is telling a story of someone who had a criminal past, went to prison, is a convicted felon, but she was able to persevere and go on to be a six-figure Amazon reseller. And she's also a mom. I believe it's a total of 4 kids. I may be mistaken. I believe she has 4 kids total, and she has a story to tell. So I think she does drop some of her tea in these series of videos where she talks about why she went to jail. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm not going to hold you guys any longer. And again, thank you for hanging in here with me, and I hope you enjoy this story time. Let's get started.
Story time of why I went to jail. It was actually prison, But I was 18 years old, and my sister actually came to me with a proposition, and she was like, hey, I have some people that are having a difficult time bringing money in from another country. I don't know why the red flags didn't go up, but I was also young and very naive. So when she told me that all I had to do was open up a bank account, I was like, that's it? That's easy. That's simple. It's going to be my name, my bank account. So I did. And I gave them the login to the online account, and it was a brand new account, so it's not like I had money in there or anything like that. Plus I was 18. I didn't have anything to begin with but some debt. So they deposited $40,000 into my Bank of America account, and so then they were going to pick us up the next day to drive to the bank, and they were going to escort me to take the money out and then give me my cut, and then they keep theirs. I went to the first bank. I took out a little under $10,000. It was fine. I went to the second bank. I took out, I think it was like $8,000. And at the third bank, the teller, she kept my license a little longer than the other banks. So I already felt like something was up, and she had already alerted the police by clicking the little button under their desk. And so, like, before I knew it, the bank was like surrounded with cops, and I was automatically arrested from the inside of the bank. And when I went outside of the bank, I was like looking around for the people that we came with to go to the bank to withdraw the money, and they were gone. They were gone. They left me there. I was 18 years old, and I'm 2 hours away from my house. And I was interrogated for like 6 hours. I didn't have the money in my purse from the previous banks, and there was no vehicle that belonged to me outside of the bank. So they already knew that somebody had brought me there. And so while I was being interrogated, they told me that this was a ring that had been going on, and they were trying to catch the perp, and they knew that I wasn't the mastermind. And and I didn't know their names. I didn't say anything. So I went to jail that night, and I spent the next 7 days in jail because I didn't have my phone. They confiscated it, and I wasn't able to get anybody's number out of it, and I didn't remember anybody's number. And on the 7th day, it's pretty crazy because I actually bunked rooms with a pastor's wife, and she prayed for me, and she told me that on the 7th day that I was going to get released. And on the 7th day, my name was called. Somebody was bonding me out, and I was like, there's no way. I'm like, they got the wrong name, because I didn't call nobody to bond me out, and I didn't know anybody that was going to pay $20,000 to get me out of jail. So the people, those guys, they bonded me out, and I had to hitchhike home. This is part 2, and apparently everyone is so interested in what the pastor's wife did. She was such an angel. It was something like with her registration or her tag. It was something so minor. They didn't have to take that lady to jail for that shit. But anyways, I was able to hitch a ride from... Oh, and side note, I believe she was there for me. Like, I was crying uncontrollably. I didn't know where I was. She was put there for me. God knows what he does. And I swear, she was there to calm my soul and to calm my nerves. She would pray with me every single day. And she told me, she's like, baby, you're going home on the 7th day. Okay? So, and this is why I so strongly believe in God, and I believe that he don't play about me. But anyways, I was able to hitch a ride from the prison, or from the jail to about 30 minutes away from where I lived. And so I ended up at like a gas station, and I did know my sister's number. I just didn't want to call her from the jail because, she was involved as well. But anyways, for everybody saying that my sister is dirty for bringing that situation to me, I do believe she knew more than what she was telling me. However, she also had created an account and she also was pulling money out of the bank. But I was first, and ironically, I got in trouble first. However, they never noticed that she had the account like also, and she never went to jail for this. And when she went back to Miami, her accounts were never frozen and she blew all that money. So I did get upset with her because she didn't say, here, let me help you pay for your attorney. She was just like, F you, I'm going on a shopping spree. And that's what she did. So anyways, I called her when I got to the gas station. I'm like, hey, I need somebody to pick me up and take me home. She didn't have a car. So she sends the guys that got me into the situation to pick me up. And at first I was like, no, I don't want them to pick me up. But then I was like, well, maybe I'll get some kind of payment. I know I didn't withdraw all the money, but maybe I'll get some kind of payment for the whole situation. And then so they picked me up. They picked me up. And as soon as I get in the car, I get like this eerie feeling. They're like not really talking. When people are acting weird and you pick up on it, that's exactly how they were acting. And then they were like looking at each other. And then one of them gets a call. He answers the call. And all I hear him say is, yeah, we have her. She's with us. Sir, I am not a package. So I was like, I have to pee. And he was like, oh, we're almost there. It didn't seem like we were almost anywhere to me. So I was like, well, I have to pee really bad. They just stayed quiet. We get to a red light. I attempt to open the door. This door has child safety lock on it. Honey, the way I panicked, I was like, oh my God, I have to pee. And I'm going to go right now in your chair because I've been holding it for like 2 hours already. And then they finally give in and they pull over to the gas station. We pull over to the gas station, and as soon as they stop, I go right in and I go right to the register person, and I'm like, hey, I need to borrow your phone. As soon as they seen that man pass me the phone, they leave the gas station so fast, and they leave me there, and I'm stranded yet again. What he meant by we're almost there was that the main guy had my money, supposedly, and he wanted to see me, to pay me. However, I believe that I was going to be silenced. And I wholeheartedly believe it to this day. So like, remember how I had to give them my information, my login to my bank account online? Well, they had all my information to where I lived, my date of birth, everything. So I was a little afraid. So I ended up staying at my grandparents' house for like a week, but then I got scared because I didn't want to bring danger to my grandparents' home either. And I had a daughter at the time. She was 2.5 years old. So I was trying to protect her as well. And so I ended up going to stay at my friend's house that lived in the same apartment complex, actually right across my apartment door. So to, protect my kid and protect my grandparents, so I won't bring trouble over there. And so that they don't question me, like, what's going on? Why are you not staying at your apartment? I was afraid. So then, every day I would bring like a couple things from my apartment to her apartment. And eventually I was trying to empty out my apartment. And then one night we're like talking at the dining room table, and we hear a knock on my apartment door, and we look out the peephole, and guess who it is? One of those guys that was in the car. And they didn't tell me they were coming. They didn't call me. They didn't text me. They didn't advise me of anything. And just looking at the peephole and the way he kept looking like around like this, I knew why he was there. So after that knock on that door that night by that guy, I realized how serious the situation really was. So I had a boyfriend, and it wasn't the father of my daughter, but it was a pretty serious relationship. But the night that I went out with my sister, or the day that I went out with my sister to go do this crap with the bank, I didn't tell my boyfriend what I was doing. I just told him that I was going to go out with my sister. And so I actually came clean, and I told him, hey, the day I went out with my sister, this and this happened, and now these guys are looking for me. And he was devastated, but he was like, you know what, we're going to figure it out together, and we're going to come up with a plan. I picked up these charges, I want to say like in June, July-ish. I was 18, so I can't quite remember the exact month. And I'm going to be 35 years old now. But like 2 months later in August, this same said boyfriend had a freaking accident on a four-wheeler and he passes away. My only hope to like feel some kind of safety or feel like someone's gonna help me with this situation that I had going on, like, totally vanished. But the way God kept intercepting my demise blows my mind, because that day that my boyfriend passed away, riding that four-wheeler, I was supposed to be on the four-wheeler with him, and I couldn't go because I had to go to work. So he passed away. That I'm going through this whole ordeal by myself, and I'm still at my friend's house trying to move my stuff out of the apartment, and life just like spiraled out of control after my boyfriend passed away. You know, I was fighting the case for a whole year, and eventually I got sentenced to a year in the county jail and 4 years probation. And yeah, I feel like by me going away, God protected me from yet another demise. Part 4. My ex had passed away. I'm actually at the cemetery this morning, and life kind of just like took a downward spiral. I don't remember like much of it, but I do know that I never went back to that apartment. I started working 2 jobs. I worked at a barbershop and a strip club. So I would open up the barbershop at like 10 a.m. and I would get out like 5 p.m. And then I would either take a shower at a friend's house or my grandmother's house, and spend time with my daughter. And after that, I would go into my second job and get out at sometimes 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, sleep in my car, and then open up the barbershop. I did that for like 8 months until I paid off my attorney, which was $10,000, just to keep myself out of jail. So I thought. So sentencing day comes, and I get sentenced to a year in the county jail, followed by 4 years probation. So let's rewind. Before I started doing my year in the county jail, I had gotten 2 tickets for driving on a suspended license within like 4 months of each other. So I do my time, I come home, I'm on probation, and I get pulled over again. And I think I was out maybe 6 months, and I go to jail, and that violates my probation. When you violate your probation, your crime becomes your original charge. So I was back in for my original charge, and so the judge sent me to prison for 18 months, followed by 5 years probation. Okay, so my original charge is from a different county and not Miami-Dade County. So remember, I told you guys I was driving up north, so I was like 2 hours away from my house, so it wasn't my county. So when I got pulled over and got arrested for driving on a suspended license, that violated my probation, but the systems didn't connect right away. So I did get a bond, and I was bonded out of jail. And so then my probation officer, he calls me a couple days later, and he's like, hey, you violated. And I was like, yeah, I'm aware. And so he's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to turn yourself in, or what's going to happen? And I said, yeah, I'll turn myself in. Give me a couple days and I'll drive there, because I didn't want to turn myself in here in Miami and wait to get extradited 2 hours away, because they take their sweet ass time, and I was not trying to sit in jail. So I was like, okay, give me a couple days. So I already knew, because my probation officer gave me the heads up. He's like, you're probably going up the road. And I was like, okay. So my friend had thrown a little like going away party for me, and she's like, oh, I'm gonna invite some friends. And I was like, okay. She's like, some people that you don't know. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So that night of the party, I ended up meeting my son's father. So I tell him, I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna see you anymore, you know, like after today. And he's like, oh, why? So I told him the whole entire story, and he's like, oh, I'll be there for you. And you know how people are. Oh, I'll be there for you, I'll write you, I'll come visit you, I'll send you money, blah 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 blah, whatever. Guess what? He was the only person that came to visit me those 18 months. because I did go turn myself in. I went to court and they gave me 18 months in prison, followed by 5 years probation. So the whole entire 18 months, this guy would drive, because I was in Quincy, Florida. This guy would drive like 8 hours just to go see me twice a month.
Okay, so we're roughly halfway through this video. When I put all her clips together, this came out to be just under a half an hour. But the things that I have observed so far is a lot of this just comes down to poor judgment and immaturity. And I have glanced or went through her TikTok, and there's more to her story. She has a story to tell. And the story of her life, especially her younger years, it may explain why it was easy for her to fall into this. Because I tell you right now, if somebody approaches me at my big old age talking about, we need some help with people who are trying to bring money from overseas, I'm out. At 18, if I am basically rudderless, a mom of a 2-year-old, I'm basically out here in the streets struggling. Yeah, I got a dude, but really, somebody's coming to me saying that I get some real cash, and I see my sister doing this hustle and actually making money. Would I be tempted? Possibly. That was not my story at 18. At 18, I'd have been like, hell no. Because even though I have a former law enforcement background, and that means I knew right from wrong, well, that could be argued. Don't get me started on police officers. But in general, I am a moral, law-abiding citizen. But I was brought up that way. I had a 2-parent home. I was looking at college. I wasn't looking at a hustle. So I do give her some grace because she was young. There's some scary moments that they kind of gloss over, or she kind of gloss over. This is not my first story time. And let me just tell you, especially the ones that I have done, which mainly have been women, judgment is not high up on the list. Morality is not high up on the list. A lot of fast living, very young. Times are different. I understand that. I'm a lot older than these young ladies. And for some of them, I may be old enough to be their moms, quiet as cat. Especially in this case, it's a definite possibility. Definite. But anyway, my point is that bad decisions were being made, and she was one of the lucky ones. Again, I will say that she does talk more about her life moving forward and the things that are going on in her life, even being successful with the Amazon sales. If you look in the description box, I'll remind you at the end, but I will link her Instagram. So if you want to go over there, sorry, not her Instagram, her TikTok. If you want to go over there and watch this or go skim through her TikTok to get a feel of her life, feel free to do so.
But guess what, y'all? This whole time, he was taking a girl with him. And he would leave the girl at the hotel, and then he'll come to the prison and come see me at the prison. Mind blown, the things these men will do. But anyways, I didn't know about this. So I was writing him, and I'm like, oh, you're going to give me a son when I get out, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you about manifestation, okay? Because when I got out from doing the 18 months, I got pregnant by him. And I had a boy. I had a son. My son is going to be 12 years old in December. So when my son was 6 months old, I violated my probation again. I know, right? I'm so stupid. And that violation sent me back to prison for 4 years. And they suspended my probation. So I just had to do 4 years clean. And I was like, I'll take it. And that's the story about.
Okay, so real quick, part 5. I'm actually late to my appointment, but part 5. So before I went in to prison for the second time when my son was 6 months old, when I was actually pregnant with my son, I was working for a health insurance company, and I was like early in my pregnancy. And when they found out I was I was pregnant. I was actually on probation with the company, and it was a health insurance company, so you had like paid medical leave and a whole bunch of other like incentives and stuff. And since I was a new employee, they weren't happy about that, so they ended up firing me and not giving me a really good excuse as to why they were firing me. So I actually ended up filing a lawsuit against them for wrongful termination, and I didn't get paid until after I was in prison. So when I went in, my attorney was trying to find me or contact me, and she spoke to my grandmother, and she was speaking to my son's father, and they were both saying that I told them to give the check to them. My son's dad was saying to him, my grandmother was saying to her. So this lady was so intelligent that she reached out to me. She found me and reached out to me, and she's like, hey, I'm just gonna send the check to the prison. So I got called down one day. I had to sign the check, and they deposited the whole entire check into my account. So the 4 years that I was in prison, I actually took care of myself because I had my own money. I did sign and release some money to my grandmother because she was taking care of my son part-time because my son's father had to work. So she did help with that. And but the story gets crazier. So I used to live with my son's dad. We had a house, and after I got incarcerated, this man put a listing on Craigslist and allowed 2 women to come move in and rent rooms from our house. And when I came back home, first of all, we didn't even have a home anymore. That was not, like, he let it go. But I didn't have any clothes, no panties, no shoes. My perfumes were gone. Nothing. I came home to nothing. Zero. Okay? And then he blackmailed me and told me that he would have to take me, I would have to take him to court in order to see our son if I didn't get back with him. So I got back with him September 17, 2014. I was released from prison. I got back with him. He had rented an apartment, and so I came home to this apartment, and that was in September. By January, he went to jail and for domestic violence because he put his hands on me, and I packed up all my bags and I moved out of that apartment. So I didn't mention that between September and January, the cops had actually been there 2 times. So January, that was the 3rd time. So they called DCF, and they also took my son into custody, and then they placed my son with his dad's sister. So the system took my son from me, and I was the victim because I allowed this kind of behavior in his life, which I understand. But yeah, they placed my son with his sister, and when he realized that I moved out of the apartment, guess where he went to go live? With his sister. And I went to go live with my grandmother. The system is really messed up. So this is kind of like free therapy for me. I have never like publicly spoken about the shit that's happened to me in my life, partly to protect the person that harmed me, and partly due to shame, maybe. I don't know, but life is a journey. Life is not a destination. And guess what? This is my fucking journey. So anyways, my daughter had gone with her father because he took her. So he told her that I died. So in my child's eyes, she was mourning a mother that never died. And so that's a whole nother story on its own, because his girlfriend became very obsessed with my daughter. And to this day, right now, my daughter's going to be 18 years old in December. And some of this girl's friends think that my daughter is her daughter. And even their son thinks that my daughter is his biological sister and that they share mothers. So that's a whole nother story. But my son stayed with his dad, in between his dad and my grandmother. So they just like alternated. But I didn't see none of my kids when I was incarcerated because my daughter, he didn't even let none of my family see her. which is okay because my family is very dysfunctional. But he could have at least let my grandmother see her, and he didn't. So she was kept away from our whole family. And then I petitioned the courts for, you know, at least joint custody. And I eventually ended up getting sole custody of her. I've had sole custody of my daughter for the last 7 years. And before that, we had joint custody. And he just doesn't like the idea of having the same child with me. So he stopped picking her up. And I still haven't modified child support. And to this very day, I still get $51.45 of child support from him for an almost 18-year-old child. So yeah, that's where my kids. This is part 6, and keep in mind that a lot of other things transpired. I'll try to go back and do like fill-in stories, but after my son's dad got incarcerated and I moved out, I was working double shifts just to try, 1, to get back on track, like with my life, and 2, when my son was removed from me, the DCF had said that I needed like a stable home and he needed his own room. And so I was working to get us, you know, an apartment, while also taking their parenting classes that they told me that I had to take in order to get my son back, to learn how to better protect my son from situations like abusive relationships. Because although I told you guys that he put his hands on me, it was like really bad. He locked me in a room for like 3 hours. He was like pissed drunk. I ended up like going on the bathroom on myself. He broke TVs in the room. He was kicking holes in doors. And what saved me was that my son was next door, in his room next door, and he started crying, I guess because of the noise. And when he went to go check on him, I like dashed out of the apartment, and I felt bad for leaving my son there, but I knew that he wasn't going to harm our son. And I banged on like my neighbor's door, and I was like, call the police. And I had his handprints on my neck. It was a long story. So he got domestic violence by strangulation against me. We had a restraining order I had a restraining order against him. And yeah, it was really crazy. It was really, really bad. And then on top of all of that I had going on, I was also doing therapy sessions in downtown Miami with my daughter, because I was still fighting for custody for her, and doing therapy because she had just found out that her mother was still alive. So while I was working at Buffalo Wild Wings, I decided to get involved with one of the cooks, which is the father of 2 of my kids, 2 daughters. And we got together, and we were together up until 2019. That if you go back to I think it's the first story, something around there, the guy that I came home and I found him after coming from Vegas, that's that guy. So yeah, had kids with him. I love my kids to death, but I wish that I never started messing with that guy, because long story short, he was harming my oldest daughter, and I don't know when it even started. Okay, there's a part 7. Story time. I know I haven't done a story time, and you guys are waiting for part 7. So I'll give you guys a little bit of part 7. So I think this was like early 2019. I had already decided that I was going to make an exit out of that relationship with my ex. And so I told him that I had stopped receiving my daughter's Social Security benefits, and I opened up a separate bank account, and I just had the deposits go there because, remember, I wasn't working because I had just had a premature baby, and we both had like a lot of medical issues. So that's why I did that, to secure some money for me and my children to make an exit plan from that relationship. So by like June of 2019, we were already sleeping in separate bedrooms. So when I ended up coming from Vegas early and catching him at the house with that girl, the reason why I kicked him out that day was because I hadn't kicked him out because I felt bad for him. And I was like, oh my God, he doesn't have anybody. He doesn't have a family. So you having the audacity to come here with a girl, that just made it like, okay, you know what? You need to get out of here, because now you have somebody. Get the hell out of here. And I just didn't appreciate the disrespect. So now I had 4 children and no job. Luckily, I asked my sister for her credit guy's number, and we ended up hitting it off. We had such a strong connection from the moment that we met. And the very first day that we met, we ended up talking for about 7 hours, and it was just like instantly. And at the end of that day, he told me, he's like, there's something like a gravitational pull that I have toward you. And he told me, he's like, you're going to be in my life for a very long time. It didn't feel as if I had just left a relationship, because like I said, I was checked out of that relationship probably for a whole year before I actually like decided to get up and leave. What held me there was the fact that I was having a lot of medical issues and I couldn't work at the time. So that's basically the only reason I was there. My husband at the time was also married, but he was in the same situation. He was sleeping downstairs. In fact, she had packed all his bags. And this is something that a lot of people don't know, and then they look at me as if I did something wrong. He was still living in that house with his wife, but they were not together. She packed his bags and she basically put them outside the front door. So he was living out of his car, but still sleeping there at the house, again, because they had children. But I want to say like late November, early December of 2019, which is the same year that I met him, I think like a month and a half after I met him, he decided to start sleeping at my house every single night, because he was also doing the transition of leaving that relationship. And also to protect me, because one day I woke up and my ex was standing above me in that house that we shared. Like, sir, why are you here? So a lot of things transpired.
That's like Jamie's story. And tell me what you think. I know she has an issue with someone saying that she's telling this story for clout. Listen, in this day and age, she's putting her government name out here on her YouTube channel. She gives her first and last name. And if you're coming from our community, and I'm pretty sure in the crime talk community, it's the same thing as the YouTube, the true crime community here on YouTube. Some people like to dig and verify information. If she's not being honest, that's easily can be snuffed out. I believe her story. It's not too crazy. It's not the craziest one I heard, but it's very interesting. And sometimes the stories just come down to who's telling the story. So tell me what you think of her story. And moving forward, I'll just let you know, just to kind of give you a teaser. If you are interested in checking out her TikTok, she is married now. And guess what? Her husband is in federal prison. She didn't meet him while she was in prison, so it wasn't that kind of a thing, love after lockup kind of thing. But I guess technically it is. But the point is that she has, I think her youngest child at the time of this video was like 2.5. This has been a few years, so they may be about 5 or 6 now. But her husband has been locked up in jail, and if you go to her most recent TikToks, apparently he's being deported. I'm not sure if he got out of jail, because I believe he had a 5-year sentence, but I also do know that with everything that's happening now with immigration, if you are not documented, or even if you have permanent residency, you commit a felony, they can ship you back to the country you're from. And I'm not sure what country he's from, but if you're interested, again, just look at the description box. I will have her TikTok linked, or at least you can cut and paste it and go find her on TikTok. So I will be uploading more story times. I like doing these story time or bringing these story times to you, especially the true crime story times. Number one, you're getting it from quote unquote the horse's mouth, okay? Or somebody's retelling the story with good authority. And also, I try and I will be trying to do stories that uh, kind of are wrapped up. Some are going to be longer than others, but I appreciate your time today and moving forward. Hopefully, this is something that will catch on to you guys like. And again, if you're one of my OG subbies and you want more Nesto content, just let me know in the comments. I can try to work that out and get you guys those transcripts. So until I upload the next time, please have a great day. Peace.